Okay. Let's see who's here or not. What have I done wrong? Okay, give me a moment here. Something's not quite right. Ay, technical. Should be okay. What am I doing wrong? Good evening. It's Sunday night over here in Las Vegas, 27th of October. Hello, Maria. It's been a while, folks. I'm spending most of my time over on Rumble now, but here we are on a Sunday evening, like we've been doing for years. And we'll see if we can get a 1 or 2 little mini readings for anybody. Hi, Necessary Truth. Good to see you. Yeah, it's Sunday night. Looks like you got to get up really early. Understandable. Hello, Love Triber. Love Triber, I believe you're recovering from your big event. Maria, what's going on in Arkansas? I heard about the lithium activity over in Arkansas. Who would have guessed, huh? Yeah. What's voting like going in Arkansas? A lot of shenanigans. All right. So, let me just go to the charts momentarily. Hello, Starzy. Wow, long time. It's been a long time, folks. Let me put this over here. Sorry for a moment. I got ahead of myself a little bit. So we've got a booking already in advance from Gregory Ross. So we'll be dealing with that. This is the chart that I have for today. Looks a little bit strange. It's because I've over-exaggerated and enhanced this particular axis because it is very fierce right now. You'd never know, but it is. Very, very fierce on the global financial arena. What I've done is I've taken a lot of the stuff that I do and I post it on my X, TarotLumination on X. And I also post all my Rumble videos on X now, so probably the best place for people to hang out is on my X, just TarotLumination on X, because what I do there now is I do the daily astrology. It's like a weather report, you know how I do those things. And I speak openly and clearly and with much less fear than I do over here on good old YouTube. So YouTube just obliterated another 1,000 subscribers off my channel here, but in a way it kind of doesn't matter anymore because it's effectively dormant. So anyway, just to give you an idea, I do the same thing I've been doing for years, but it's morphed into a daily kind of astrology report. We can still do Sunday night live mini readings. I wouldn't be surprised if we eventually just do all that on Rumble, but it might be another year or so. Who knows? I don't know how that's all going to work out. And anyway, so to get you up to speed here a little bit, we've got some extreme volatility coming in the astrology, as some of you know already. We're heading into it right now. In the next few days, we're going to be looking at something like this, which is actually, let me add to that. There we go. I knew there was something missing from the other day. Here we go. Very, very pretty, isn't it? It's just a piece of sacred geometry. This is just an oversimplification of what I see coming in the next few days. And this is before we see this monstrous beast of Mars opposite Pluto on November the 4th. So all the way from now, essentially, here we are, okay, here's the 27th, it's a Sunday. Last week we said bye-bye to Boo Boo. It was a beautiful, beautiful event and very heartbreaking. And next Sunday will be the 3rd of November. And that will already be cresting over here. The actual crest is on the 3rd and the 4th, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. But of course we have a wide orb of influence, but this is a very, very vicious, warlike aspect. And it's going to show up in the elections in America. It's already showing up across the world. But there's a lot of activity here in America specifically because it pivots on the Cancer-Capricorn axis, which is very fundamental to American history, American astrology, American identity in terms of astrology. This axis here today, we've been talking about it for weeks over on Rumble. It's a build-up to a global financial crisis, at least the illumination of crisis, because it's a very, very large, extended crisis that has a huge orb of, let's see, what's the word, the best word, for playing out on the world stage. It's taken 120 years to build up to this peak of financial, I guess, I don't know what to call it, delusion, depravity. And just like all things in nature, it will reach its crescendo and then fade. Later on, after the election, the sun is going to be opposing Uranus, and so we're going to have a much more fierce global financial dynamic that will be exposed on the world stage. When I look at this beautiful, let me just show you a little more closely here. I don't know if you can see it, but we have that big fat green triangle, which has been there for months, and it's going to be there for months. It's very harmonious, very, very powerful. It's open to use and abuse. The deep state monsters, the cannibals and the vampires, are abusing this very, very aggressively, not too effectively, but effectively what they're trying to do is spread as much evil as possible, as fast, as wide, as much as they can, while they can. And it's heavily, heavily, heavily supported by this Mars, Mercury, Neptune aspect. And it looks very, very pretty, having a beautiful grand trine like this, supporting this beautiful sextile trine over here. You can see it in a more pretty dynamic like this. Okay? It's very, very pretty, but it's basically being exploited right here at the kind of at the pivot point. And that's very tragic. It's very, very frightening as far as I'm concerned. But when you're aware that it's happening, you don't have to live in fear. You can, let's say, moderate yourself, your body, mind, heart, and soul accordingly. So you don't go into a panic or an action-reaction syndrome. You can look at reality, you can look at the facts, and then behave accordingly. Make conscious, deliberate, sober, calm decisions about your life, including voting. Now, you might sort of see in this pattern cross, cross, cross. That's what comes with a grand sextile, which is this thing where we're heading. Now, this is going to unfold quickly, and it's going to begin, middle, and end really quickly, because it's mostly going to pivot around the moon. Effectively, it's actually going to look more like this. Okay? If you imagine that's Neptune and that's the moon, that's going to be Venus, that's going to be Uranus, that's going to be Mars, that's going to be Pluto. So, at the same time that you have this beautiful grand sextile, which is astrologically very rare, you've also got the triple oppositions that automatically come with it. Fierce oppositions. So, basically, you're talking about relationship dynamics being stretched to their limits of endurance, their limits of viability, their limits of credibility, their limits of resilience, of value, of health, of love, anything toxic or evil, good or loving. It's all going to be exposed for everybody, everywhere across the planet. Relationship dynamics are going to be very, very unstable. Again, in the United States, that's going to play out in the elections, okay? The Wizard Black. Well, it's sort of, we're building up to it right now. This is just my little illustration, okay? You're not going to see this exactly like this, but it's going to look pretty similar over the next few days. The thing is, you're probably not going to see it here on my YouTube, but if you want to go to TarotLumination on Rumble, I'm going to be doing at least daily updates. So, just prepared. The thing about grand sextiles like this, in some ways it can be exploited like as though, hey, everything's great, everything's going just great and just wonderful. Let's say you have lots of planets in the mutable signs, Pisces or Sagittarius or Gemini, or perhaps anywhere that this touches anywhere in the chart, everything amplifies everything else. I forgot another one. Look at that. I knew there was something missing. See? There it is. Oh, I forgot another one. Damn. There is a grand sextile in its full glory. Excuse me. Sometimes they call it the Star of David. I believe Bob Marley was born with something very, very, very close to an exact grand sextile. It's very rare. It's a really powerful alignment. It bestows tremendous opportunity and harmony and like a massive flow of almost supreme easiness in life. But it can just as easily be exploited for extremely nefarious means, because in the background we have these extremely hyper-challenging relationship dynamics. I was reading somewhere long ago about the sextile for Bob Marley, and I love some of his songs, like most of the world, and it's like what tended to happen with Bob Marley, according to what I heard, is that he was so gifted and so benevolent. He was just Mr. Happy Guy his whole life, and he was unaware of the trail of misery that he left behind him in terms of screwed up relationships, affairs, I think it was marriages and divorces and children and things like that. Just so long as he was happy, it would just keep going. And the thing is, everyone else went along with it and would forgive him because he was Bob Marley. And he was just bringing so much love and joy into the world a lot of the time. Hello, Victor. Wow. Anyway, I'm just going to put that aside. It's very pretty. It's a talking point. We're not quite there yet. We're going to build up to it, and then it'll fade away. And then we're going to head into this massive, vicious opposition over here. We've already talked about that on my Rumble. So that's for Mr. Ross over here. I'm going to shuffle up over here. So if anyone's interested, I've got a little... I'm okay to do a couple of mini readings tonight. I've got one set up for Mr. Ross already, so we're going to do that. I want to remind people how things work. It's been so long, I'm hardly ever here anymore on YouTube. So what you can do is, if you want, if you've got your own PayPal and you're used to doing PayPal shopping online, for example, you can just send a donation directly to my email. a little book about at yahoo.com. Or if you want, you can go over to TarotLumination.com on a device, a phone, a tablet, another tab on your computer, something like that. Go to the donate page and open the donate button, and it opens a payment processor. It's based around PayPal, but you don't have to have PayPal. You can just swipe a card if you scroll down and choose the pay by cards option. Hello, Elizabeth. Good evening. Hello, and how are you? Hello, Victor. You know what, Victor? Let me just share something. So, I made some notes today. Which is what I do every day. And then I realized, oh, wait a minute, it's Sunday. I'm probably not going to be able to indulge myself too much on the astrology itself because I'm going to become too controversial on a Sunday night. And Sunday night we're going to do little mini readings. God willing, I'm still here. But anyway, what I did, Victor, you might be interested in this. I found everything that I was expecting to see coming out from different channels, financial sources and everything. And I posted them all on my X, TarotLumination on X, okay? So if you want to go into detail about what I was studying early today, you can see exactly what I was talking about regarding the global financial system becoming more and more and more compressed into a very hyper volatile situation. You know what? I've got a couple little mini notes here. I don't think it'll become too harmful. So I guess, Victor, I'm speaking to you specifically, but I'm giving you a few little bits of tidbits that I would normally, if I was normally just working on my Rumble channel, where I focus purely on the astrology, global astrology. But anyway, some of you probably know we've had the huge BRICS convention over in Kazan, over there in Russia, hosted by Vladimir Putin himself. Hundreds of people showed up, and at least, 70 of them want to join the BRICS, and there's already about 12 or 13, I think, members, and probably another dozen or so lined up ready to join, and they're all keen on joining because they see it as a way to navigate around the United States dollar and United States tariffs. And if you start digging and everything, you start to realize that the core alliance is the BRICS itself, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. But it's changed a lot, quite rapidly. It's still Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, but there's also, it's countries that have like a tendency to operate under tyrannical dictatorships, or functional, or let's say conventional dictatorships or communist dictatorships that don't like being sanctioned or blocked off with tariffs by the United States. And they're always looking, these BRICS folks are trying to find a way to get around the United States dollar, the United States Federal Reserve banking system, and the SWIFT financial network interchange system for global trade that goes through the Bank of International Settlements. And it sounds great. The problem is implementation is going to be much, much more difficult than the BRICS alliance is expecting or allowing. Because really, I mean, it's like Russia and China are already trading yuans to rubles, right? So, you know, who needs a SWIFT? Who needs an alliance? You know, but the idea is for BRICS to coalesce everything against America, and the BRICS people who are trying to aspire are, as much as they aspire to become part of the BRICS, they're also realizing, well, wait a minute. As soon as I become deeper and deeper in BRICS, the more and more I'm alienating myself from the United States. And the reality is that the United States dollar is still heavily dominant on global trade. So that makes things awkward. Very, very awkward. So India decided, oh, well, it's going to be even more awkward for India because India is very, very open in its democracy. It's got a lot of problems, but it's very aligned with the West and open commerce. And if India beds itself with BRICS, it becomes a real problem for India because then India is essentially stigmatizing itself. Also, one of the problems is that the Chinese yuan and the Mr. Xi Jinping and the Chinese Communist Party want to dominate BRICS and make the yuan the core currency. Basically mimicking the US dollar, where there is no intrinsic value to the yuan, except what Mr. Xi Jinping tells you it is. So what makes the BRICS any more valuable or useful than the existing system? Anyway, so the BRICS optics looks great and it's exciting and it's thrilling for the possibilities, but it's actually very, very difficult to implement. I do not see it advancing too far too quickly. I see other things happening. I see a lot of very twisting and like tightening of knots on the global financial arena, mostly to do with currencies. In other words, the United States dollar versus everything else. So we'll see how that looks. I'm going through this stuff because everything was flooded with financial interest stories, okay? So from different angles, the China economy is so much more worse than you can imagine, but a lot of pundits don't really see it that way or talk about it that way. You've got to really dig. And when you realize that it's just a massive Communist Party criminal enterprise from the very, very top down, and there's no actual genuine consumer economy where you can have free market capitalism in the form that we have in the United States under a constitutional republic of fair trade and so on. We have a lot of challenges and restrictions in America, but compared to China and the rest of the world, we have a very open trading system. It's very different in China. It's corruption from the top down. You cannot advance in China except through the phenomenon of corruption, and that corruption goes from there to get to the top, and then from the top down to get the assets from there to go up. And of course, millions, hundreds of millions of Chinese people got screwed by the system. It was deliberate. And the Chinese people are starting to realize, wow, we really got screwed. And so China is heading towards a massive, massive life of poverty, deprivation for hundreds of millions of people for probably 30 years to come. That's my impression. Sorry, China. Yeah, it's just really kind of scary. I found one today which kind of was really heartbreaking to me. This has nothing to do with money. It's over in Indonesia. They're chopping millions and millions and millions of trees to satisfy the green agenda, to burn biomass, which is basically wood, instead of coal or oil. And most of that biomass, basically wood, is going to Japan and South Korea. It doesn't make any sense to me, but Indonesia is doing it, I believe, just to make some money. Here's an interesting story. It was brought to my attention by Gregory Ross. I'll just rattle this. I'm going to catch up on the chat in a minute, okay? Some of you might have noticed that the New York Times, the Washington Post, and the LA Times have all declared that they are openly refusing to endorse any political candidate for president. I think that's hilarious. They're not willing to endorse, you know who, the lady with the laugh, because she's such a disaster. And those major influential newspapers do not want to associate themselves with such a train wreck. So rather than endorsing that lady, they're basically saying, we're not going to endorse anybody. They're certainly not going to endorse DJT. I think that was very, very funny. And of course, there's an uproar in the mainstream media because of it. Here's a little shocker. Again, Uranus and Taurus closing in on the critical degrees. Very bizarre, weird climate weather situations like we've been seeing recently with Hurricane Helene, Milton, the other big one that just happened, and now another huge one heading over and just slammed the Philippines, and another one heading towards China. The Philippines, they've already just got smashed by Hurricane Tremi, 130 dead. It was just as scary as Helene and Milton. Very, very tragic stuff. And here's the other scary thing you might have come across. The Department of Defense issued Order 5240.01. It's basically a swipe of the pen, okayed by the current administration in Washington, to allow the American military to use lethal force inside America against Americans as needed. Okay. Now, is that just a coincidence? It's happening right now so that they can institutionalize civil war on November 6th? Just saying. Ron Paul basically announced it. He calls it a setup for civil war and the institution of martial law. Some people are saying all sorts of weird things are going to happen, like Grandpa Joe is going to have a sudden spontaneous heart problem, and all of a sudden cackling you-know-who is going to have to take over the presidency in the last few months. So she'll automatically be president. I mean, it's just bizarre. It's such a chaotic mess to watch. And of course, some of you know, a lot of you know which side I lean. Anyway, I'm just going to leave that. I have a bunch more stories, but I'm not going to put them up here. It'll just all of that will just get me in trouble. Let me just have a look. I'm just going to check in on the chat here. So we've got. Let's have a look. Okay. Oh, so Necessary is saying TL's daily. Yeah, Victor, if you want to, you can visit on TarotLumination. It's on Rumble. Easy. You just go to rumble.com and then click search TarotLumination and poof, there you go. And Victor says, TL is coming up on my feed lately. A lot more. That means a change is coming. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. Insulation from the collapsing dollar. The Federal Reserve in America is between a rock and a hard place. Everyone's talking about the inevitable implosion because of $36 trillion of American debt. Well, guess what? They can still keep printing. They can just still keep printing. And hundreds of banks all over the world are still buying treasuries, secretly, quietly in the background. It's not for speculation. It's just purely to buy the spread. Banks live off the spread. Banks pull in this much money, or they park it in their bank, and they get this much interest on it, and then they lend out at this much interest. And then the spread is the little bit that's left. That's usually about 3%. And the banks can live very well on that. So if one of these banks domiciled over in the Cayman Islands, along with dozens, hundreds of, a couple hundred others, Cayman Islands, Luxembourg, Switzerland, they quietly, very, very, very quietly just scoop up billions of dollars of treasuries. Let's say it's $10 billion of treasuries. Let's say it's 5% on the treasury, and you're the bank and you're lending out for 2%. So the spread is 3%. Okay? So 3% is a nice little margin. When you think of $10 billion that you've parked there on your computer, $10 billion, and over the next few months, year or two, next few months or a year, you're going to collect 30 million. Basically for sitting there clicking a bunch of buttons. You don't even have to be a spectacular currency trader. You don't have to be a stock market investor. You don't have to be a genius. You just have to be a banker domiciled in the Cayman Islands and have a computer that's set up to buy billions of dollars of treasuries. Of course, you'll probably borrow that from another bank that already has them and so on. It's just a game. But wouldn't that be a sweet way if you could just line your pocket with $30 million and then, cash out a few, Oh, I need another million. I'm going out tonight for dinner. Oh, so, I have the gigantic psychic triangle on both of my hands for necessary truth. I don't think I have one of those. That's nice, but people don't understand your lines on your hands change every single year. Oh, okay. Well, watch a palm reader 1 year versus 10 years later. I never knew that. Hell, self-mastery coach. Woo! Hello, TL. It's been a long time. Wondering if you remember me. If you're James Helen, are you James Helen? English speaking, so you're not the husband of Mona Berkness, are you? No? I'm sorry, I'm lost. So read and take a picture of your palm and then check it 10 years later. Just saying, get a good palmistry specialist. Your palm changes every year, just like your astrology. Self-mastery coach. I loved your channel way back when you used to do readings weekly. Yeah, it was a fun time. You're one of the best readers I've come across. Thank you very much. I'm honored. Necessary truth. I'm glad you're back, self-mastery coach. How come you remember self-mastery and I don't? What's your name and what type of coaching you specialize in? So I'm on a sabbatical, coming back in January 25. The Dainty Gorilla. Oh, I can picture that. I'm picturing that. Sounds like a YouTube video in its own right. The Dainty Gorilla. So self-mastery coach, you had a major transformation that lasted a few years. Ouch, yeah. My coaching is a holistic spiritual healing, emotional, mental, and energy healing. Okay, I understand a little bit about energy healing. Awesome, self-mastery. May God grant you all the healing energy, enlightenment, and wisdom on your transcendence journey. Yes, thank you. Okay, I'm just reading through the chat. Thanks, TL, for the info. Yes, Victor, again, because I'm not a multi-billionaire or anything. I survive on a micro budget, but I'm still very intrigued by global finance, and because it affects me anyway. From the very, very top down, I'm affected just as much as anyone else, and I don't want to be caught off guard because in some ways I'm hyper vulnerable. So I like to stay ahead of it. So I'm glad you appreciate these things, Victor. I highly recommend TarotLumination on Rumble during the week, and you can check anytime on TarotLumination on X. Teal is on Rumble. It's my go-to podcast. Woohoo! A go-to podcast. So, you gave me a Reiki treatment? Was that back when I lived in Los Angeles? Because I was in a lot of pain. Oh. I've had some very serious health issues over the years. I'm quite stable at the moment. Damn. So I was back in LA, so we're going back 4 years. Well, probably 4.5 years at least. And gosh, wow. I bumped my head. I probably had, I nearly died. If you're talking about bump my head, I was in a hospital. Wait a minute, maybe that's not what it was. Yeah, some doctors and nurses, they were hoisting me through the hospital in a very large machine about 6 feet off the ground, and they released the cage after doing heart testing, very, very deadly heart testing. And I told them I can't handle it. I'm falling apart. I'm terrified. And they said, don't worry about it. You'll be fine. And they opened the cage and I collapsed on the floor. I ended up in the emergency room of the hospital where they were trying to help me. Ridiculous. I had heart issues. Yeah. Yep. God. Thank you, self-mastery coach. Reiki is amazing, isn't it? Actually, you know what? 2017 or 18. Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah, that was a really rough time. That's right at the end of 2018. That's when my channel was being severely attacked by all sorts of people, and the YouTube started getting very savage. YouTube used to think I was an absolute darling channel, and they would invite me to their YouTube world headquarters in LA to hang out with all these other alpha YouTubers. And then it got very bad very quickly. Oh well. Oh well. Guilty until proven innocent. That's how they work. They decided to believe a bunch of lies. But anyway, so regarding Reiki healing, you know what I'm going to do? Just to touch base a little closer, self-mastery. I want to show you something. You might recognize this. Hold on. So different Reiki healers and trainers and coaches and practitioners have different modalities, but did you ever come across this? It's essentially the power of your healing hands. Look at that. Isn't that just beautiful? That's what I think of when it comes to energy healing. The healing power of love. Your hands are holy. What are you going to do with their hands? They're sacred instruments. Are you going to go kill people? Or are you going to heal people? And so on. You had a Zoom reading? Oh, forgive me. Oh, God, I'm so sorry. I can't. Sorry, I'm losing it. The thing about Reiki, okay, if you want a visual, because I have a lot of, so again, so Victor understands this, self-mastery, you must have seen this. This is how I like to envision Reiki. You see the lady in the middle there? She's the practitioner in 3 dimensions. See the lady on the table? She's the patient receiving the treatment. And you see all that golden fractal light? That's the healing power of love as transmitted by the Reiki healer through the Reiki healer hands with the assistance of spiritual, emotional healing guides. It's an extremely powerful phenomenon. Thank you for bringing that up. It's amazing what happens in the multi-dimensional world outside of our 3-dimensional world. I watched a movie, an old movie the other day with Love Triber. And it's called The Men Who Stare at Goats. It's kind of an interesting, bizarre story about remote healing. Remote viewing. What's interesting about the movie, it's exactly the same energy field through which you can transmit remote healing. Reiki is energy healing, mostly typically by the hands through the healer, having been, I guess, gone through the practice and understanding how it all works, so that the Reiki healer can project the healing power of love as a form of energy healing onto the patient, and so on. But when you get into those kind of super high frequencies where you can't actually see it or touch it specifically, you're starting to also permeate into the world of psychic mediumship. You can think necessary truths over there. You can think of spontaneous, I call it clairvoyance. You can think love triber over there, for example, and so on. Also, you can do remote viewing. I've done some of that, and sometimes it's very simple, straightforward, and spontaneous. The tricky part is to find a way to disable your sense of doubt that this is even possible at all. I'm trying to think of a story. Well, there was a funny story, huh? Not really. Hold on. Okay, anyway. Oh, do you mind if I just tell one little story and then we'll go on to the reading? So, I was helping my friends out the other day, and one of them's over there a couple of 100 miles away over in Arizona, trying to coordinate a lot of traveling for events and things like that. It's very difficult to do so many things simultaneously. And over there, I say, I'm over here in Las Vegas. Actually, let me get the map. I'm over here in Las Vegas, and the friend is over there in Cayman. And all of a sudden, the friend calls in and says, "Oh my God, the cat's gone. The cat's gone. The cat must have run through the doorway or something while we were doing all the prep work." Tell the Jesus story? Oh, come on. No one's going to believe me. Oh, jeepers. Anyway, okay. So, it was yesterday or the day before. I think it was the day before. I got the news that, oh my God, the cat got away. Oh, no, we can't have that. It got out of the house. No. Bad things could happen. And so somebody looked me right in the eye and said, "Oh no, little Tuffy got out. He's out." And I was just washing some dishes or something, or preparing a snack, and I had a spontaneous vision. I knew instantly, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to trust this. So I just blurted it out without thinking, no thinking aloud. I said, "Tuffy is under a chair in a dark space near some concrete. Perhaps some steps involved, but mostly under a dark space. Looks like a chair or a bench near to some concrete, possibly a floor or a wall." Wait. Tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. Friend goes down looking around. Oh, there he is. There's little Tuffy. Under a chair, in the garage, in the dark, right next to the concrete wall. See, that's a classic example of remote viewing. It sounds ridiculous. I mean, seriously. Sounds absolutely ridiculous. Okay, I'll tell the Jesus story. I'll try to condense it because I probably screw up on the details. It was close to the time of the passing of dear Boo Boo. And I knew it was happening for a couple of weeks in advance. And my heart was very, let's say, fragile. And I was thinking, I don't have anywhere to lean. I don't know where to go. I have to do my own self-healing. And sometimes you get to the point where I don't know what to do. And how does all this stuff work? For some reason or other, I was already in conversations with myself, like I was born and raised with so much religion, so much church, so much Bible, and then some really evil shit happened, and I said, nah, it's not my world anymore. But I still loved these beautiful buildings with the stained glass, and I would go inside them every now and again anyway to pray. And I thought, I don't feel anything like that over here. There's the Mormon temple up the street, but it gives me the creeps, kind of like Scientology. No offense to anybody, but that's just how I feel. It's very beautiful in its own way. The architecture, man. Anyway, so I went to the bathroom, and I was feeling very alone, very isolated, like, it's a shit life, being one of these weird, obscure, boutique, artisanal, online, energy healer, astrology reading, tarot reader type people. I mean, I never knew I would be doing this in my ripe old years. It's like, where's the guidance for me? Where is all that? And so anyway, I was going into the bathroom, and I sat down and I was doing my business, just pondering life in the world and everything, like people do. I was not on my phone or anything. I just sat there, kind of looking at the wall, waiting for, some stuff to happen. And then I felt this hand on my shoulder. And I kind of went, huh? And this voice said, listen, man, I love you anyway. You might not know it. And I know you've got your issues. And I understand why you're not an open practitioner, but I love you anyway, man. And I went, what is this? And I realized, there's this guy in a pair of sandals and a white robe. Kind of has this sort of look to him, pretty long hair on the side. Fuck, is that Jesus? Is that you, Jesus? And he said, yeah. Yeah, I know. I just thought, it might be a good idea to actually check in, you and me in person, okay? So just want to let you know I'm here, I'm around, I know what you're dealing with, I know what you're going through. And sometimes, like, you have doubts, but I understand it. I'm not judging you, I love you anyway. So that was my little Jesus story, if I told it roughly correctly. I hope you liked that. Thank you, Necessary Truth. Self-Mastery Coach. Ed Dames has a great course on remote viewing. It's quite amazing. Yes, remote viewing is quite a spectacular, fun little treat. I used to do it kind of for party tricks. Sometimes in Los Angeles with one of my friends, she'd always challenge me. Oh, go on, do that. What's inside that envelope? And she would test me. And I would say, okay, blah, da, 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 and I would draw a picture. And then we would pull out the contents of the envelope, and she would go, oh my God. So they all kind of overlap. Remote viewing, psychic mediumship, where you connect with the dead from over and beyond, from your loved ones. Connecting with pets through psychic mediumship. Live, real-time remote viewing. Live, real-time, where let's say I'm over here in Las Vegas and I worked for the military, Department of Defense, deep state, deep psyops missions, and I look into the military bases inside Iran, and I connect back with my bosses, and I say, I go to my smartphone and I go, coordinates, blah, 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 blah. Large military base underneath their munitions, manufacturing of bombs, missiles, coordinates, blah, 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 blah. Thank you very much. And then they go send an F-35 and then they bomb it. That's what they do. I don't know if they do that a lot, but people do that. Remote viewing can be that powerful, that accurate. Oh, yeah. And then every now and again, Love Triber would make me do remote viewing contests with the guy on YouTube. And I always really struggled with it because I kind of didn't want to do it because it's like having to prove yourself. And I actually did pretty well. In each case, I did really, really well. But I didn't fit the criteria of that Dick was looking for to get a prize. And so I thought, well, okay, I already know. I already know, so I don't have to prove anything to anybody. But it is sort of fun, weird, entertaining, and a very bizarre phenomenon. If you're not used to it, you might feel like you're going insane if you have a remote viewing experience, but you don't know what it is. Another example was when long ago, when Pluto was transiting Pluto was transiting Scorpio for about 12 years. I think that was back in the 90s or something. I was a younger lad back then, and my whole life was heavily overwhelmed with psychic phenomenon, and it was just like too much. I'm freaking going insane. I'm going to end up in a mental hospital. I'm seeing other people's car crashes. I'm seeing people die. I'm seeing the Chinese economy collapsing. I'm seeing people in buildings collapsing in China, and it just went on and on. I'm seeing local headlines in newspapers 6 days before they actually occur. I would see flooding. I would see trees falling down, or some kind of just anything. Just bombarded with psychic overwhelm. It's too much. Yeah. The psychic realm, sometimes it's really hard to navigate unless you've just gone through an awful lot of stuff. And you start to think, well, okay, if this is how it is, then this is how it is. And you just learn to live with it and make something out of it. So I devote quite a lot of time and energy to this stuff now. Like with the tarot, which we're going to do in just a moment for Gregory, but also with the astrology, because the way I do astrology, I depend very deeply on an intuitive approach as opposed to a very strict academic technical approach. A lot of the astrologers do the academic because you can, and in some ways it's much easier because you can access tremendous amounts of data on pre-processed, let's say, interpretations of aspects, and that's really helpful, but in the end you got to call it as you see it for what it really, really is. And that's where I ended up going, because I realized, wait a minute, there's a bunch of astrologers and people who are not seeing certain things. So I thought, I'm on my own here. And so anyway, we ended up, there it was, February 2017, and TarotLumination was forced by my basically guardian angels, my invisible friends, my spirit guides, a massive team basically shoved me and said, you have to set up a YouTube channel. And I went, what? Well, that's weird. YouTube's freaks. It's full of freaks. And they went, no, you have to set up a YouTube channel. You're going to do astrology and tarot. And I went, okay. And so I did it. And I made friends with a couple of really good astrologers. And like Sonia Francis, she was a fantastic. We ended up buddies. And also Lada Duncheva, she was fantastic. But that's, 8 years ago now, 7 years ago. Anyway, I don't want to scare people. Let's do the reading for Gregory, and then we can all go off and have a life, okay? Not have a life, live our life. I'm sorry, I don't. That didn't come out right. Sorry, I'm already glancing into November. I haven't put too many notes here, but if you look at this one, there should be a huge red alert here. Massive red alert. That's the election, and it coincides pretty much perfectly with the Mars-Pluto opposition, which is an extreme hyper-warlike dynamic in terms of the astrology. Yup. Well, I'm going to put this over here. Let's tuck this over here. I'm going to put the pens away. We're going to shuffle a deck. And then we're going to read for Gregory. Okie dokie, brace yourselves, people. So, I'm going to just do this the way we do it here sometimes. Sometimes the best thing to do is just do a completely blind reading. Gregory, of course, a lot of you know Gregory. He's been here since pretty much the beginning, like a bunch of you. I know Love Triber's been here for a long time. Necessary Truth for a long time. Maria for a long time. Victor is more recent. Self-Mastery, it must be a long time, even though I don't have early recall. And so on. Who else am I missing? If there's anyone else out there watching, please check in, introduce yourselves, hang out, enjoy. Tell us who you are, where you are. All right, here we go. Let's have a look here. You know what? Just one little sipperoo. All right. All right, so chat amongst yourselves while we'll do this. Now, this is specifically for Gregory. We're going to do a blind reading here. But sometimes, sometimes more often than not, the reading will have a certain resonance with the people who are at the show anyway, almost as if they were just spontaneously supposed to be here anyway. Diana Lynn. Well, well, well. SoCal. Oh my gosh, I do miss my California beach. Oh man. Well, look at this tonight. We've got all these healers. We got Victor, we got Self-Mastery, we got Necessary Truth, we got Maria, we got Diana. Cheapers. Old times, folks. Old times. Again, I want to encourage everybody to consider migrating to Rumble and check in with TarotLumination on Rumble so you can get the deep dive astrology. And eventually, I would love to do tarot readings on Rumble as well. Okay? A lot of stuff going on in Arizona with elections. Whew, man. Crazy, crazy stuff. All right, I'm going to avoid anything remotely controversial. You've probably noticed I haven't said hardly anything that would get me censored or blacked out or demonetized or deleted, or what's the other one they like to do to me? It's a complete shutdown. I mean, last time they basically shut down the whole channel for a week, like 10 days. It's kind of like a war of attrition. They've spent years, they spent about 6 years trying to basically crush me. And I would say in the end they have been effective. But I have not gone away lightly, and I still have a presence here, as you can tell. And my channel has not been completely obliterated. Alright, let's have a look here. Oops, excuse me. I don't do jumpers or flyers. I'm not doing any oracles. I'm just doing a classic TarotLumination mini reading using my classic TarotLumination situational spread. It's basically a diagnostic tool. I explain this every time. It's just like going to AutoZone, O'Reilly, or Auto Advanced Parts or something like that. And you drive in and you say, hey, listen. The orange lights on my dashboard are blinking. There's something really wrong. I don't know what's happening, man. Can you help me? And then the technician grabs their little black box, which is about this big. They run outside and they plug it into your car, and you have to run the engine for a while, and they tell you, I can see by looking at the diagnostic tool that you have a faulty emissions system. Let's see, click, click, click. Code P015578. Oh, it's the catalytic converter. You're screwed. That's $1,000. Oh dear, dear, dear. Well, you come to the right place. Okay. What, like do... I suppose I could work all day, every day, and do daily readings for tarot on YouTube, and then my astrology deep dives on Rumble. At least with the tarot, when I'm doing the tarot cards, I don't really get too controversial or get myself too immersed in self-destructive language that triggers the YouTube algorithm to obliterate me. Strikings, warnings, deletions, demonetizations. I've had it all. They used to really, really, really promote my channel until they had a change of mind, and then it was all, how can we crush this guy? I guess it's a game for them. I don't know. All right, Gregory. Time to pull up a seat. If you're quietly observing, that's fine. Otherwise, you can enjoy this later on in your own peace and quiet when everyone's gone and we've closed down for the evening. Okay, thanks, Victor. Don't forget, TarotLumination on X. TarotLumination on Rumble. In fact, in a way, Victor, the easy one is X because I put everything there. And when you hit the astrology report for the day, it'll actually come through X, but it'll pull up the Rumble videos. Okay? Alrighty. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Victor. All right, Gregory, here we go. This is it. We've had enough shuffle and chitter-chatter. Okay, what messages do we have for Gregory today regarding life in the world and everything? Is it specific or broad? Let's find out. Now, some of you might remember, was it last week or a week before? I think it was about 2 weeks ago, we did a reading for Gregory, and it was about having to be extremely careful in an environment being surrounded by some very, 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 let's say, challenging people. All right, let's have a look. Hey, okay, so Dainty Gorilla. Sounds very cute. Dainty Gorilla, just hang out for a little bit. Okay, here's the situation. Here's the challenges. Here's how we're going to handle things going forward. And let's have a look at the external influences. A lot of times, you know, I like to default to the planets. Let's have a look. So, we've got the Seven of Pentacles here. It's a mixed blessing. My feeling is that the beauty here is that you can take comfort that over life, you're at a certain point, like a certain chapter in life, where you have built up talents, gifts, resources, assets of various sorts, whether it's just a little bit of money in the bank or credentials for your crafts, your skills, whatever it is. It's items of value, and they are there. They are very valuable in their own way. And yet at the same time, how are you going to extract that value? Because the value is obscured, number one, by simple external forces. In other words, it's a very challenging time right now to get full access to the easy flow of your natural talents, gifts, and resources. I think everybody knows here that anyone with a significant Pisces element in their chart is enduring tremendous pressure somewhere in their chart. It's very, very, very difficult energy to handle. It's not only Neptune, but it's also Saturn, and Saturn's about 13 degrees, so Saturn's very, very powerful. It's bringing a lot of pain and suffering to people who have specific Piscean themes or influences in their chart. Now, today in particular, actually, a while back, when we had Sun, Mercury, and Venus and Moon transiting through the Virgo season, it was probably very painful for a lot of Pisceans people. Today we are right now, Virgo's in the moon is in Virgo, opposing Saturn very tightly, and then later on, it's going to oppose Neptune. So what I think is going to happen is we're going to have an increased pressure for the Piscean folks to try and understand to try and understand things that are very hard, almost impossible to understand. It's very, very, very difficult energy to navigate. You know, like with the Neptune energy, the illusion versus the reality, the ideal versus the three-dimensional limitations. It can be extremely frustrating. One of the beauties, of course, about the Neptune energy, the Piscean theme in general, is that it represents universal love, unconditional love, like the My Little Jesus story. You know, I might be a real, derelict now and again, but Jesus loves me anyway. So, over here for Gregory, with the Seven of Pentacles, he's surrounded by a situation like a planetary influence, which I think is the Virgo Pisces axis just being lit up here tonight, specifically because of the Virgo moon opposing Saturn in Pisces. It's exposing the very, very, very difficult reality of how exactly do you do the extraction of all these talents, gifts, resources, value and values that are just like sitting right there. How do you optimize that? Because it's obscured simply because of life itself, okay? Let me give an example. We're all swimming around in like a perpetual goldfish bowl of the healing power of love. Sometimes I like to watch animal videos because they make me feel warm and fuzzy. Some of them are very tragic and I can barely watch them. I don't know how some of them get on YouTube, but they do. I think it's because they trigger powerful emotions in people and that generates huge revenue for YouTube. Something like that. I also believe, I hate to say this, but I think some of the animal tragedy videos are staged. That's not nice. So anyway, with this, I guess the point I'm trying to make here, with the Seven of Pentacles, is that it's like the things that are coming to my mind are tortoises, like turtles in the ocean, whales in the ocean, lobsters in the ocean. A lot of creatures that live in the ocean become infected with barnacles and parasites. It happens to humans too, but in the ocean it's very obvious because the barnacles live on the body of the creature, the organism. And eventually the barnacles, if not, it's very, very, very hard for these sea creatures to heal themselves. Sometimes I've seen them like moving up, they'll try and scrape themselves against rocks or something to get rid of the barnacles on their back, their head, their legs, their chest, their face, everywhere. And it can be very, very debilitating. And sometimes it's beautiful to watch that, like these traditional predators, people out there who are doing deep sea fishing for massive, swordfish or something, and then they get all of a sudden a soft spot because they see a huge turtle that's dying from infestation with barnacles or dying from being choked by old fishing nets from rogue fishing boats and so on. And so they do the rescue, and the sailors will grab these big turtles and chip off all the barnacles, and you can see the turtle is so happy. And the turtle, they throw it back in the ocean, and the turtle has a whole life renewed. The point that I'm trying to make here is that sometimes you get to a point where it's really, really hard to do your own self-healing. You do as much as you can, But sometimes, you know, I'm not. Maybe it's an idea to see like an energy healer. I'm speaking loosely, Gregory. I haven't got into your specific reading yet. I'm talking about the Seven of Pentacles. I'm feeling a very strong parallel with sea creatures, Pisces, that get laden down with unnecessary, heavy infestations, parasitic energy from external life, which has just come about from just living your life, especially coming into contact with people who are basically not very nice. And it's almost like they have malicious intent. So how do you heal that? It's sometimes very, very hard to heal these things, because it's like spiritual barnacles. They're invisible, but they can weigh you down. They can make your life feel very oppressive. Like, how am I going to deal with this? How do you get rid of the barnacles? Anyway, I don't know if you've got, Reiki healers in Santa Fe, or, massage healers or something like that. Anyway, let's have a look. What's the situation itself? Let me go back here, Seven of Pentacles. There's a lot, in theory, that you could do yourself, but sometimes you get to the point where, there's only so much you can do, and you're still left with barnacles that still obscure access to your freedom. Okay, let's have a look here. Situation itself. Yeah, you're very, very aware that this has to be done. The Page of Swords is a very, let's say, open, vibrant type of energy. It's to me, it's almost like the Sagittarius energy of blurting out the truth, because the truth has to be told. And sometimes the truth hurts. And sometimes, to me, I see a very strong connection between the Page of Swords and the barnacles analogy story here. If you look at this in a very kind of blurry type of way, I'm really stretching the reading here, sorry, but forget this is the Seven of Pentacles for now. Think of these as these very, very tricky barnacles that are attached to you. How do you remove them? Well, on the videos that I watched, you have to go to a practitioner who has the skill to remove them. Psychically, spiritually, emotionally, physically, with massage or something. But with the turtles story that I was talking about, or the lobsters, or the dolphins, the whales, most of the sailors and the healers used a knife type of object to kill the barnacle and scoop it off and prise it off. And it's almost like when I see this for you, it's just like, yep, TL, I know exactly what you're talking about. I have to remove these barnacles, and I'm going to need help. Got to start somewhere. You can do some of this yourself. It would be like, oh, if they're here, you can get those off. If they're here, but like a lot of people, how do you massage your own spine? Very, very difficult. So, what are the challenges here? I know this sounds like a very, very weird reading given these cards, but I see it as highly relevant for Gregory in terms of healing, being healed, and self-healing. What are the challenges here? Okay, it's a change. It's transformation. Deep, deep, deep transformation. The fear, it's almost like the fear of the unknown. Okay? Where... Okay, let me look at it this way. Don't look at that one. I'm going to leave it there, but focus on this. It's like, Gregory, this reading, this is nothing new to you. I'm sure you know exactly what we're talking about, and you're going to go to yourself, oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, TL. I know you're talking about it in terms of barnacles and value and values and, knives to cut the barnacles, but it's an easy translation to from my little story into your specific, exact parallel stories. So the challenge is the process itself, especially in terms of self-healing, just doing the self-healing part of this, let alone having to perhaps recruit external healing, like third-party healing, is that it's going to bring inevitable change. And sometimes that change can be terrifying. Like, what happens if I, harm myself in the process, when I see these sailors doing the healing work. But it's also like surgery, surgeons doing surgery. Think of this Page of Swords as a surgeon. When surgeons do surgery, they're actually in some way, if you think of it that way, they're doing something very painful and intrusive to the patient in order to actually heal them. And that's a very scary process. So that's why a lot of people do not like going to the doctors. They don't like healing. They don't like to even talk about it. They don't want to have any kind of diagnosis that affirms what they deep down know in themselves already, because then you've got no other option except to ignore the diagnosis or respond to the diagnosis. Responding to the diagnosis is going to mean having to go through profound, scary changes, leading to potential feelings like I'm going to lose everything. On the other hand, it's the same thing if you don't do anything. It's just like, so it's this like trap. Oh, I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't. So what's the point in self-healing if I'm going to have to face this thing anyway? Well, the thing is, if you do the self-healing and you face this anyway and you heal, then you come out into a whole new world. So how do we deal with this? Because this is a little bit scary. In other words, the situation would be like, what does this mean? Like, you've got your personal life, you're going here and there, you've gone through a major chapter. I believe you've reached a huge, let's say, timestamp, for example. We've talked about it this way before. If you think of your life as an episodic series on Netflix, for example, you're going to have season 1, infancy, childhood. Season 2, youth. Season 3, early adulthood. Season 4, maturity, serious aspects. And then, Saturn return season, and so on and so on and on and on. And each season, so you're at the point, you're at the latest season that you've just lived is actually over. And you're entering a new season. And no one has handed you the script yet. What does that look like? So it's a very scary phenomenon. And it's almost like how movie studios do that. They withhold the next season until everybody's saying, come on, we want to see the next season. And then they release it. And so with the tower here, it's like, oh God, does this mean I'm going to have to live through a tower moment? Oh, poop, damn. How can I avoid that? Oh, if I avoid it, it just becomes a doom loop of perpetually having to end up here again. If I decided to take action, I'm going to have to face the doom. The feeling of doom. It's almost like, let's just say you're a hardcore junkie and you love your heroin, your fentanyl or whatever, and you know damn well that this isn't good for you and that you want to stop, but you also know damn well giving up heroin and fentanyl and stuff, it's absolutely terrifying. So anyway, how do we deal with this moving forward? Life moving on. Okay, I would say rest in peace here with the Queen of Pentacles, knowing and understanding that this is immutable. Okay? Nobody can take this from you. There's your 7 Pentacles over there. They are perfectly fine over there. It's just that they are obscured. They are obscured by current events. Okay, like in astrology, it would be the Virgo-Pisces opposition right now. In astrology, it would be the deep, long-term movement of Saturn through Pisces. It's a 2.5-year journey total. We're over halfway through, thank God. And then there's still Neptune there, which makes it much, much more serious. But eventually this will pass, this will change. And so the Queen of Pentacles here, I think it's a very powerful reassurance and reminder that, Gregory, you're okay. You're okay. You're okay. You're okay. You still have it. You've still got your talents, your gifts, your resources. It's a question of, it's kind of like self-respect, looking in the mirror and remembering that Queen of Pentacles here is ultimately a very, very loving, caring custodian of the things that are really, really valuable. And you have to remind yourself that you are that person. Why do I say that? Is because you have been this person to others. And now it's time to be this person to yourself. That might be hard for you to hear, but I think you need to hear it. And it's on the understanding that this is a very, very difficult situation. But you've been very, very good to others, and you can do it to yourself. How does that look? How do you initiate and dial down the self-healing process into a three-dimensional, let's say, what is it, a strategy, or what do doctors call it when they lay out a plan for your healing? This is very, very comforting for me. I hope you take this as very, very comforting for yourself, just to remind yourself that you are this awesome and you have a very deeply loving, caring, compassionate soul, especially towards others who have benefited from your, let's say, over generosity, over kindness, almost warlike defense of others who've needed it, who have not been able to protect or speak for themselves. And there you are. You brought your very valuable gifts and talents to them. Now it's time to do that for yourself. Easy for me to say. All right, so there's your mini reading. I hope that helped you. I'm going to clear that up in a second. Actually, you know what? Let's clear this right now. So, Gregory, you can catch that, and digest and process later in your own time. Put that over here. Thanks, everybody. I don't see any more bookings, so we're just going to wrap it up. Let me go over here a minute. I'm going to double check a few things in the background. Give me a moment here. Yeah, I think we're good. Okie dokie. So, all right. Let me just check up there a few things on the chat. Dainty Gorilla, anything in the air for me? Hello, Dainty Gorilla. Go, Gregory. Life Path 11. I don't know what that is. Libra, Sun, Moon, Rising. That's a lot of Libra. Are you sure? Libra, Sun, Moon, and Rising. That's a seriously powerful alignment. And of course, it's very challenging. Ivona, hello. Now, I've been talking about it on the Rumble a lot regarding the Libra-Aries opposition recently. It's been very, very tough because we've got the Libra South Node. It's going to be lit up a little bit soon when the moon gets into Libra in a few days. It's going to light up the Libra South Node, and it's going to oppose the Aries North Node. And eventually, as the moon moves through Libra, it's going to oppose Chiron, and that's going to be another Libra wake-up painful moment. So, thanks for asking. Okay. All right. Sorry, I had to get close up there. I needed to see what's going on. I'm missing one of my monitors tonight, so anyway. Let's leave it at that. Thank you for sharing and hanging out with me, sharing all your funny stories and reconnecting from the past and giving me a confidence boost for the future. Take care, everybody. Be loving, be loved. And for three-dimensional purposes, protect your money, protect your privacy, and protect yourself. Okay, it's very, 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 very important right now. Good night, everybody.